everybody. I'm Connie Stewart with SimplySimpleStamping.com. Welcome to the last video in my masterclass on color inspiration. Here on my Tuesday tip series through the month of April 2021, I've been sharing with you about color inspiration. Today, I want to talk about monochromatic color. I'm familiar with a monochromatic color, but I decided to do a little research and learn a little bit more about it. I learned some really great things, and today I want to share them with you. So, what do you think of when you hear the term monochromatic color? Basically, monochromatic color is just variations on the same color. So, for an example, if we take red, we're just going to use the color red. There's our red. When we add white to that red, what do we get? We get something more like a pink, right? So we're just adding that white to red. It gives us pink. When we take that same red and we add a gray, what do we get? We get a dustier tone. In this case, it's going to be Blushing Bride. So you see, we just kind of added that gray and it toned it down and gave it that dusty muted color. Last one, when we take that red and we add black, what do we get? We get a really deep maroon color. In this case, it's going to be a Merry Merlot. That's monochromatic color. And guys, you can use any color to create a monochromatic color combination, a color scheme, using the black, the white, and the gray. Let's talk about that a little bit more. And to do that, we're going to talk about the color terms and what they are. Now, some of these terms you may have heard, and if you're like me, you went, I don't really know what they are. So, like I said, I did some research. I learned some interesting things. So let's talk about these color terms. Have you heard the term hue? That color, the hue of that color. Well, basically, the word hue means a particular color. Now, in most terms, when we talk about a hue, we're talking about red, green, yellow, purple, a base color, right? Any color. We're not getting into any specialty colors, just the colors, right? So now we're going to talk about the value of a color. If you've heard that term, simply put, the value is the lightness or the darkness of that color. So I just used that example of the real red. And right, so red, let's just talk red. So we took a red and we added white, and what did we get? We got a different value. We got Flirty Flamingo. When we added gray to that, we got a different value and we got a Blushing Bride. When we added black, of course, we got a different value and we got a Merry Merlot, right? So that's value. Now, I mentioned those three, we'll call them colors, are black, white, and gray. Those actually have some different meanings, and we're going to go through those. So first, let's talk about black. That is known as the shade. So I like to help me remember that. I think of a shade tree, makes things darker, right? Makes it dark. So when you add black to a color, it creates a darker shade. So think that shade tree. Now let's talk about white. Well, it's a tint. We're adding a tint, so it's a lighter tint. Now, the way I try to remember that is thinking of if I go to get paint at a paint store and I take a color and I say I want it lighter, what are they going to do? They're going to add white to lighten it up, right? So it's a lighter tint. Remember, they tint paint. All right, I don't know. That's just the way I thought of it. The last one is tone. So when you think about adding gray, remember you're making muted colors, dustier colors, okay? So you're not black and white. You're not making it lighter and darker. You're just kind of changing the tone. So I try to kind of tie that into thinking of it in a tone. It's not, we didn't change the color. We just changed the tone of the color. So there we go. We have shade when we want it darker. We have tint when we want it lighter, and then we've changed the tone when we want those more muted colors, and that's with the gray. All right, I hope that helps. It definitely helped me to understand what those terms meant. The last thing I want to talk about is the difference between warm and cool. So when we at Stampin' Up! Talk about warm and cool, we're talking about warm as in very vanilla, cool as in basic white. Now remember, we talked about adding colors or adding neutrals to those colors. Remember, we talked about the shade, the tint, and the tone. Well, now we're going to talk about how those colors change things into warm and cool. So let's go, we're going to start with Very Vanilla. Now, when you add Very Vanilla, this is going to take you into the warm tones. Now, let's talk about those. Warm tones are going to remind you of the heat, the sunshine, warm days, feel good. Did you know when you're card making, it means something too? When you add warm tones, that means cozy, playfulness, passionate. So, what colors do you think of when you think of that? Well, this would be your warm colors would be your oranges, your reds, and your yellows. And they're going to pair very nicely with the Very Vanilla. And when you're looking at finding those different, remember we talked about the different shades and the different hues and all that. This is what you're going to think of is what would happen if I added vanilla. And that is the color, like I said, that's going to give you these types of feelings. Like I said, passionate and cozy and playfulness. So this might be a really good one for birthdays and fun thinking of using baby and graduation, really fun, playful things, right? Okay. Now we're going to talk about basic white. And it has a purpose as well. This is a cool tone. So this is going to be cool. And when you think of white, of course, you think of snow. Maybe you think of ice, you think of blue skies and things like that, just those real cool things. Okay, so the colors that are going to pair well and blend well are going to be your blues, your greens, and your purples. Now, what do those mean in your cards? Well, they mean calm, soothing, refreshed. When I think of that, so I think of the basic white when I would add that to my other colors. I'm thinking sympathy. I'm thinking, well, even the baby I mentioned earlier, it's very calm. It's very nice. It's thinking of you. It's just calling to say hello, these types of things. So that's what you think about when you think of cool color. Now, this is color we're talking about here. You are not married to, I can only use Very Vanilla when I've got my greens and my purples and my blues. No, no, no. They are going to be able to change and intermix. This is just a suggestion when it comes to creating with color of how these can work together. But don't get yourself into a box that they are only good this direction. Because I will tell you, my favorite color combinations are basic white with just about everything. I love what? Oh, that playful and that fun and that bold. And you do get that when you go with the cool of the basic white. That doesn't mean I can't use my Very Vanilla. Oh, nay, nay. No, I've got the opportunity to mix and match, but it does give you something to think about when you're trying to figure out, do you want to go warm or cool? We've covered a lot about monochromatic color, right? Well, I want to mention one last little thing. This is getting into the science part, and I didn't do too good in science in school, so I'm not going to get too deep into this. But one of the things I read is how monochromatic colors, when they hit your retina and your brain processes it, yeah, I pretty much was tuned out after that. When that happens, how does your brain react? So when we think about we give a card, what reaction we want. Now, what this made me think about is if I have too much of a monochromatic color, does it make the brain go, there's just too much purple coming at me? Well, here's what you need to think about. You can change that if you feel you have too much of one color going on. You can simply change it with texture. That's right, just add some texture. Different ways you can add texture. Obviously, one of the main ways we like to do it around here is with an embossing folder because it adds texture that you can touch, dimension. You can also stamp maybe a background stamp or a random, maybe a floral image in the background. It's adding texture to the card. So it's not just all one flat, here it's coming at you kind of card. So think about adding texture to help break up the monochromatic colors that are on your card. When you do this, you remember it's easier on the eyes, and hey, who doesn't love a little texture on a card? Whew. We covered a lot today, didn't we? We talked about hue, we talked about value and shade and tint and tone, and we talked about warm and cool. Lots of different things for you to think about when you're working on your next card. Well, if you're like me, this information may have gone in this ear and out the other. So I have created a simple download for you that has all this information in a file. So if you ever want to refer back to it, you can just find that file and read through and go, that's right, that's what tint is. So you can find that if you look down in the YouTube description. I have a link that'll take you to my blog post that I shared today. And all this information is there for you in a download. Just look for the graphic that says, click here to download your monochromatic color file. If you'll click on that, you'll be able to get that. And I hope that's helpful to you, and that these are just things that kind of take your stamping, your paper crafting, just kind of helps you take it to that next level. When you learn a little bit about color, it makes you more confident in your stamping. So I hope today's video was helpful. If you enjoyed it, would you give me a thumbs up on YouTube? I would appreciate that. And if you haven't subscribed, take a moment to click the red subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a subscriber here. All right, my friends, go be colorful today. Create something amazing. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.